understand why the black family looks the way it does today, we have to walk through the actual timeline, the real timeline of what happened to us. Not the myths, not the recycled talking points, not the narratives pushed in college classrooms or trending on social media. The truth. So, with that being said, let's begin. Before welfare myths, before feminism, before mass incarceration, and before the gender war, we must anchor one fact. In 1960, over 60% of black adults were married, and most black children lived with two parents, and black men were employed at high rates and were the backbone of our households. This is the reality. The black
Yeah, we need to get something established here. I'm sorry about the discrepancy in the numbering, but indeed, black people were married at a 60% rate in the 1960s. Two parent households, most kids living within those two parent households. Solid family environments that carried their way into the 70s. It was rare for myself as a child to have a family without two parents. Most of the people that we knew were two parents themselves. So to be a child of the 70s, it was those were the halcyon days. Those were indeed were the days where you can call on your mom, you can call on your dad, and they'd be there right with you to give you the proper upbringing you deserve, a disciplined, stern, focused, and self-respecting upbringing in which you respected elders and you respected authority. Unfortunately, those numbers have dwindled over time. We're going to get into the reasons why right now.
family was not broken. We were not in crisis, and we were not dysfunctional. The collapse came later, and it came from forces far bigger than black men or black women. The infamous myth claims
Black women kick black men out to get welfare.
but here's the actual story. In the 1950s and the early 1960s, welfare caseworkers conducted nighttime raids, searched closets for men's shoes, checked bathrooms for razors, looked for toothbrushes, and questioned neighbors about male presence. If they found evidence of a man, benefits were cut. But this is what people never mention. The rule targeted only the poorest unmarried mothers. Married couples were not impacted. The vast majority of black families, over 60% married, were not affected. Black women did not create or control this policy. It was government surveillance and not black female betrayal. And later during
So, ladies and gentlemen, that is something that needs to be said is that um, if people were receiving welfare at those times, exactly like my first husband and my daughters and father, his parents were married 40 years until she passed. Exactly. Most black families of a Gen X, of the baby boom variety, were two parent households. Put simply and put, two parent households that in which their children were raised in proper fashion and were made to respect authority and and um, elderly figures. However, unfortunately, when people wanted to receive welfare, especially in the United States, those welfare recipients would only receive said assistance if there's no man in the house. So as Media Man has already explained, black families were often raided by government officials to make sure that there are no men in the house. Because if you had a man in the house, you would not receive welfare. You would not be a welfare recipient. So very often, men would, drift in and out just to or have a lookout to make sure that everything was that they could still receive their welfare checks and keep their eye on government officials. But for many, they were caught in this trap, and so black men had to separate themselves from those who wanted to receive welfare. However, this did not affect black families overall, because black families were married at a 61% rate, so they would not receive welfare benefits. Most of those households, both parents worked, as mine did. Both parents were working. So it was again halcyon days for the black family. Both men and women had full time jobs with benefits that allowed for our middle class to grow, even though redlining and other setbacks set up by government tried to slide us. However, we knew that we had each other. That's all we had, and so therefore, marriage was a way of securing financial freedom, and legacy for one's children. And again, Chanel said it right. My first husband, my daughter's father, his parents were married 40 years and until they passed. For many black families at that time, they were married 30, 40, 50 years, going and even to 60, 70 years, because they knew that that was the way to legacy wealth. Let's continue.
In that decade, in 1968, the Supreme Court struck it down in King versus Smith.
4 otherwise eligible children were denied welfare payments because their mother was cohabitating with a man within the meaning of an Alabama regulation designed to discourage immorality and illegitimacy. The United States Supreme Court considered the validity of that regulation in the 1968 case, King versus Smith. The Social Security Act of 1935 created the Aid to Families with Dependent Children.
Now, again, people know this is an American rule. This is an American precedent. So therefore, this is not something that's in the on the Canadian within Canadian jurisprudence. However, it's very, very much apparent that that Canadian American laws were pretty much dovetailed in this respect, and so those receiving welfare needed could only be for women and not men, because if men live with women, then they would be ineligible to receive it. Let's continue.
Or AFDC program. The program provided welfare payments to all dependent children, defined as needy children with a dead, incapacitated, or continually absent parent. Alabama participated in the program, but it had a substitute father regulation in place. The regulation denied AFDC payments to otherwise eligible needy children whose mother cohabitated inside or outside of her and the children's home with any single or married able-bodied man. As used in the regulation, cohabitating meant having frequent or continuing sexual relations. Additionally, the regulation's goal was to discourage immoral sexual behavior and illegitimate births.
So again, ladies and gentlemen, just to have a look at that, the goal of the substitute father regulation was indeed was a morality clause. It was something that would keep fornication outside of wedlock to a minimum, and it would definitely be something that would discourage those to have illegitimate births. So therefore, the high baby mother rates, there weren't any high baby mother rates back then, because again, you would not receive any benefits if you did have illegitimate births, and full regulation that full benefits, that is, because again, they wanted to discourage immoral sexual behavior and illegitimate births. We have a comment here from Chanel, and also on my side, my grandparents were married for 60 years. Well, again, Chanel being of the Caucasian persuasion, but you're very, very welcome here, Chanel. Your group still doesn't have a problem. I think they still marry at a 50% rate. I think they're one of the higher. I think about 50 to 60% rate. Still one of the higher marriage rates within the Western world. So again, it's not much of a problem for that. I think very much mostly those of the Caucasian persuasion are very marriage minded, extremely marriage minded, especially when they hit to their mid to late 20s. They want to be married, having kids, and moving on to have their legacy wealth for their children. So again, that is Roman Catholic as well. So there you go. So religion plays a part there as well. But for the African diaspora in the Western world, we had a problem. We had a big problem, and this was one of the ways that discouraged, I wouldn't say discouraged. I think it encouraged people to keep married, because again, they didn't want sexual behavior, illegitimate births, and again, it was something that I think we may want to reinstitute here in in the United States. But I think things may be here, in the United States and in North America, period, in the Western world, period. But I think we're too far gone, especially with the feminist movement as it is. Let's continue.
Mrs. Sylvester Smith was a resident of Dallas County, Alabama, and a mother of 4 children with dead or long-absent fathers. Although the Smith children were otherwise eligible for payments, they were denied AFDC payments solely because Mrs. Smith was having sexual relations with a Mr. Williams on the weekends. Mr. Williams had no legal duty to support the Smith children, and, given that he was married with 9 children, he was neither willing nor financially able to do so.
Wow, ladies and gentlemen, can you see that? Here on Talk Live, yes, indeed, the man was playing, away from home. He already had 9 kids, but was willing to deal with somebody with 4 already, ladies and gentlemen, on the weekends, to get away from things. Chanel said that her grandparents were Roman Catholic and didn't divorce. Well, this guy was looking to break all the rules. Okay, he had no legal duty supporting. He had 9 kids already, and he wanted to. Well, he wanted to support the wife in his own special way, but not the 4 kids that the Miss Smith had. I mean, imagine the blended family there. 13 kids, ladies and gentlemen, 13 kids. But then it would be a very, very messy situation altogether. But again, and the United States did not want. Um, I think that was an Alabama case. They did not want this on the books because, again, it would show bad precedent. Let's continue.
Mrs. Smith filed an action in an Alabama federal district court against Reuben King, the commissioner of the Alabama Department of Pensions and Security, seeking declaratory and injunctive relief. Mrs. Smith challenged the substitute father regulation on the grounds that it conflicted with the Social Security Act and the Equal Protection Clause. The district the Social Security Act and the Equal Protection Clause. Mrs. Smith challenged
sorry, let me go back for a second here, quickly. When she says
Department of Pensions and Security, seeking declaratory and
injunctive relief, so therefore she wanted to declare that this law was out of bounds, especially when it pertained to her and many like her. And injunctive relief meaning that she wanted this law stopped. She wanted it ended, so that she may be eligible for benefits, even though, and some weekend relief. All right, you might as well say declaratory, injunctive, and weekend relief. Let's continue.
injunctive relief. Mrs. Smith challenged the substitute father regulation on the grounds that it conflicted with the Social Security Act and the Equal Protection Clause. The district court ultimately agreed with Mrs. Smith and entered judgment for her.
But the emotional damage lingered, and the myth still lives today. So let me be clear. This was not black women choosing welfare over black men. This was the U.S. government policing black poverty. Now we arrive at a real turning point. Between 1970 and 1980, factories closed, steel mills collapsed, auto jobs disappeared, and industrial work dried up. And who was hit first? Black men. By the late
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, that was, the 1970s were a time where a lot of black families were hit hard because, again, it was a time of inflation, a time of rising costs, and a time of a lot of businesses, big businesses, stopping factory jobs and then moving overseas for lower cost. So therefore, it meant for the destruction of the middle class black family because, again, jobs were lost. Many men were out of work at the time. Many women were out of work at the time. And that meant no money going into the home. So therefore, a lot of dissolutions and divorces happened at this time simply because of money, because of finances. There were not enough things to go around. And a lot of these black men who had jobs for 20 to 30 years post-war jobs were ending. They're moving overseas. And so a lot of black families were negatively affected. Let's continue.
1970s, black male unemployment was double white male unemployment. Marriage rates declined because stable jobs declined, and economic strain destroyed the family formation. This wasn't matriarchy, this wasn't welfare abuse, this was the economic foundation of the black husband and father being ripped from under him. Marriage follows money. When the economy collapsed, marriage collapsed. Now,
there you go, ladies and gentlemen. As Media Man so eloquently said, when jobs collapsed, marriages collapsed. So therefore, we had a time where a lot of black fathers were out of work. My dad was out of work for a certain period of time because he lost a job. However, he started his own business and it turned out to be pretty successful. Anyways, but for a lot of black fathers, they weren't so lucky, and with that came the end of marriages to the women because I gotta call a spade a spade. If you're not bringing money home, you're gonna be alone. Simple as that. And especially when it came to, single paying, single earning families. So a lot of women had to find work for themselves, and to the men who may have depended on them, they were on a timer, and for them, many had to go. So again, it was the beginning of I would say feminism taking shape. But again, it was an economic. It was basically economic factors that entered in and split black families apart. Because when economy goes south, the ones who are hit hardest most are black families. Let's continue.
Here's where balance and honesty matter, because two things are true at the same time. Number one, the government targeted black communities on purpose. Crack versus powder sentencing.
I don't know if this illustration will be effective or not. First, this is flour, and this is an indication of the amount of powder cocaine that would result in the sentencing for this weighted amount of crack cocaine, 100 to 1. 18 to 1, I'm sorry, 18 to 1, which is an indication that if there's no science between the difference, the sentencing is dramatically different. I think that is the simple, direct point we're trying to make at this hearing.
Mandatory minimums.
Why does the U.S. jail more people than any other country? One reason, mandatory minimums. These were introduced in the 1980s and apply to low-level crimes. Mandatory minimums mean convicted people have to serve a minimum sentence, whether or not a judge thinks they deserve it. For example, drug crimes involving crack, heroin, or marijuana trigger minimum sentences. So do crimes involving firearms, pornography, and immigration. But opponents say the punishment doesn't always fit the crime. Take the story of Kemba Smith, an unemployed woman who moved in with her drug dealer boyfriend. After he was murdered, she was charged with conspiracy to traffic all the drugs he left behind. Mandatory minimum sentence, 24 years. In another case, John Horner.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, before we get into that next case, here's when you have black families that are out of work and are hurting, most of them may turn to, negative means of income, and that includes crime. That involves crime. So therefore, stealing, fraud, and drug dealing, to say the least. And for those crimes, the United States justice system, not so much Canada, but very much the United States, offered minimum sentences, and they were harsh minimum sentences. Even if you sold weed at the time, especially during the 1980s, they would offer stiff penalties, which is totally ironic because now that weed is legalized, there aren't any penalties. Make that make sense. Make that make sense, ladies and gentlemen. So again, a lot of black families, especially males, were left by the wayside. A lot of black men were incarcerated. Now again, this was a minimum amount. There's only about 2 million people altogether from all races in jail. So therefore, there were at least 80 to 90% of black males outside of jail at that time. But it was bad. It was during the crack era. A lot of people were locked up for a long time, and with that, black families slowly disintegrated. So the 60% in the 1960s slowly ebbed towards that 30% we see now. Let's continue.
A 46-year-old fast food worker with prescription painkillers met a friend who wanted some of his pills. The friend turned out to be an undercover agent. Conviction for drug trafficking, 25-year minimum. At 25, Timothy Tyler got caught selling LSD with his dad. Because he had been caught selling twice before, the mandatory sentence, life. Since mandatory minimums were imposed, there's been a 500% increase in the incarcerated population.
Now this allows for the prison industrial complex, people. They were locking people up not only because they were breaking the law, but because it allowed for cheap labor. If you want to read up on that, please do. But the prison industrial complex is especially those involving private jails, is a very booming industry, as they will explain now.
at a cost of $80 billion to run the prison system.
Over policing,
How can police reform stop disproportionate arrest rates? Imagine living in a neighborhood where police are everywhere, and most stops target certain groups. That's often how over-policing in communities of color happens. When police focus heavily on these areas, it leads to more arrests for minor issues.
Take
Again, I'll let this continue.
a look at New York City. Here, black people are being arrested and stopped at almost twice the rate as the average New Yorker. Now, if you went over to Tulsa, Oklahoma, being black means you are 2.7 times more likely to be subjected to physical force by police officers than white people. Now zoom out, and the story nationally doesn't change. For example, data shows that across the US, police officers stop black drivers at higher rates than white drivers. This is often called over-policing. It happens when communities either face a large police presence in their daily lives or face aggressive policing for minor offenses, and sometimes for nothing at all.
disproportionate
So again, disproportionate policing. Yes, this is something that, really can't be denied. As much as red pill as I may be, the fact of the matter is, uh, as you can see in most neighborhoods within the Western world, where there are black neighborhoods, there is a sense of over-policing. If you go to England, you'll see the same. If you go to the United States, you'll see the same. If you're here in Toronto, you see the same. There's a huge amount of police presence within black and urban communities, and with those, there's a lot more stop and frisk as instituted in New York, and therefore a lot more crime for black people because they and a lot more court time for black people and those of the like, and even and Latino people and of that kind, because again, um, the concentration of police are within those neighborhoods. So you're going to get much more people within the prison system because police choose to target said neighborhoods instead of going outside of there and going to white neighborhoods or any neighborhood, and um, equally dispersing said police forces to different areas of the community. Now, again, that has been brought to the attention of people past George Floyd, but still, um, such policing still exists to this day in many surreptitious forms, many low-level forms, but still, it's still very, very much in line today. And with that comes more harsh treatment of Black, Latin, BIPOC people, Black, Indigenous, and people of color, and thus, therefore, we are left, holding the bag in terms of being having a greater tendency to be incarcerated, be arrested, be incarcerated, and thus be a ward of the state, which would indeed break up the black family. Let's continue.
arrest and systems designed to incarcerate black men.
Mass incarceration means that we've got a very high rate of incarceration historically, comparatively. And the other thing is the rate of incarceration is so high, so socially concentrated, that we're no longer incarcerating the individual, but we're incarcerating whole social groups. The rate of incarceration now is about 5 times higher than it was historically. Historically, it was 100 per 100,000. Now it's about 500 per 100,000. If we look at prison, if we add jail to that, it's about 700 per 100,000. Nowhere in the world incarcerates as much as we do. We've seen.
So those are the main stats there, ladies and gentlemen. The United States per 100,000 incarcerates 698 people. That is a huge, huge, huge amount. And it is something that has, and most of those incarcerations target Black, Indigenous, and people of color. So therefore, you see much more of those per capita in jail, even though there's a greater white population in jail, but there's much per capita. There are more Black people in jail because the concentration of policing happens within African American BIPOC communities, and there is no mistake. They do that with good reason. It's because you want unfortunately you want to subject a race of people or a group of people that are considered at the margins of society and keep them under thumb. However, in the age of George Floyd, these things are loosening up. However, many of these incarcerations are still in existence today. However, there is hope. Well, I'll tell you on the other end. Let's continue.
Extremely high rates of exposure to the criminal justice system for African American men with very low levels of schooling. So if we think about black men who were born in the late 1970s and who are growing up through the American prison boom of the 1980s and the 1990s, the chances that they're going to serve time in state or federal prison if they dropped out of high school is about 70%. So
now this is going to come in real handy at the end of the show, people. There is a massive upturn and change that's going on here. So it's not all doom and gloom, but this was something that was in continuous proliferations during the 80s, 90s, noughties, and but there is a change that happened in the teens, and we'll talk to you about that a bit later. But this totally was a part of the decimation of the black family. Is that I would say, well, a legible group of black men were incarcerated in this time, especially those who did not have high school diplomas. Let's continue.
Going to prison for that group of black men with very low levels of schooling, that's become a normal life event. And that's really only happened in the last 10 years.
This was real, this was intentional, and this was structural violence. But here's the part that I must say out loud. Many black men contributed to the destruction. Not all black men, not most black men, but enough black men. Some black men made choices that harmed our...
I would say it's a minority. It was definitely in the minority of black men. I was, as has been always the case, 96% of black men are free tax-paying citizens. Don't believe the hype. We're not all in jail. We're not all deadbeat dads. 40% of us are indeed fathers. So again, where does the other 60% go? Well, we'll let the black ladies explain that point. But yes, we're not deadbeat dads, and we're not all in jail. 96% of us are free tax-paying citizens, and that is Western worldwide. Let's continue.
Own community. They sold poison in the black neighborhoods. They recruited younger boys into the trade, escalating violence, participating in shootouts and retaliation, prioritizing fast money over community stability, fed the addiction epidemic. We cannot pretend that every man caught up in the system was just a victim. We must acknowledge that some men caused damage from the inside.
Frank Lucas.
Indeed, ladies and gentlemen, yes, the drug trade was a scourge in the black community. Some saw it as quick money, some saw it as fast money, some saw it as a lucrative way to get yourself off of welfare and into a high value home and high value lifestyle. However, it came with a price. Many of those who involved in the trade died. Many of those involved in the trade were incarcerated. So not many people got to live to see the largesse of their work. But again, it was true. It's very, very true. This decimated the black family, not only black family, black communities, because everybody saw this as a quick buck, a quick way to make money, and with that brought death and brought incarceration and the demise, well, for a good amount of the black family.
This was an incredible street dealing boss.
Mr. Untouchable, Leroy Nicky Barnes, whose photo on the cover of the magazine caused genuine anger of U.S. President Jimmy Carter. And I must say, the anger is well deserved, because what president wants to see on the cover of the New York Times one of the main drug lords of the country, who has about 3,000 dealers bringing him millions of dollars?
Both forces broke our families. The system destroyed the foundation. Some brothers knocked down the walls from the inside, and black women and children lived through the fallout.
There was another one.
Now remember, this is still going on today, ladies and gentlemen. Again, it hasn't reached the height of the 80s during the crack epidemic, but still, many people are living, negative lives, within this drug game, within the lifestyle, and it has led to and it has been a scourge to the black community because it's led to death and incarceration and the breakdown of the black family in many respects. However, most people stayed out of this. The stigma is still attached to us, and we live with that to this day. And it isn't something to be happy about at all. Let's continue.
About cocaine today. Crack now has spread to almost every American city.
It is a problem in Houston, Philadelphia, Kansas City, Tucson, and Sacramento.
In the 1980s, the media sounded the alarm that a new drug, crack cocaine, was taking over American cities and that it had an especially devastating effect on pregnant women and their newborns.
A new study says that babies born to women who use cocaine during pregnancy are 3 times as likely to be born with birth defects.
They tend to be what we call jittery.
They're very, very high risk for cerebral palsy, mental retardation.
These children, who are the most expensive babies ever born in America, are going to overwhelm every social service delivery system that they come in contact with throughout the rest of their lives.
Drugs take away the dream from every child's heart and replace it with a nightmare.
This is the accountability piece that we cannot ignore, black men, because if we ask black women to face uncomfortable truths as well, we must do the same.
Damn. Crack.
Masculinity requires honesty. Leadership requires responsibility. And healing requires transparency. Now we reach one of the most influential and harmful pieces of the modern gender divide. In 1979, Michelle Wallace released Black Macho and the Myth of the Superwoman, a book arguing that black men were patriarchal, chauvinistic, insecure, abusive, weak, and imitators of white male oppression. But here's the truth that most black feminists do not understand and acknowledge. She conducted no real research, no census data, no marriage statistics, no economic data, no CDC fatherhood studies, and no academic methodology.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this was a lady, Michelle Wallace, who literally told lies without any empirical merit at all. Now, again, for black men, our problem was indeed the drug dealing and also the incarceration rates of a generation of a golden generation of black men, especially those of the baby boom and Gen X era. However, for black women, the stereotypical tropes from within were not helpful at all, and it also contributed to black family breakups, and also in concert with that, the belief of the strong, independent, don't need no male woman, which took feminist ideals and made it within the black space, and we are still paying for that to this day, ladies and gentlemen. Black women bought the feminist ideal hook, line, and sinker, I think, more than white women did, and this has also led to the mistrust between men and women, and as a result, the breakdown of the black family as well. Let's continue.
Wallace didn't study black men, she assumed black men. And she assumed black men based on personal frustrations, anecdotal stories, 1970s feminist ideology, recycled narratives from the Moynihan Report, and then something major happened. Gloria Steinem, the most powerful white feminist of that era, aggressively promoted Wallace's book. She gave it national coverage, media exposure, credibility, distribution, and cultural influence.
So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, Gloria Steinem, which you see here in faded tone, she was the internet. She was the internet before the internet. She amplified black feminist rhetoric, put it out to the Western world, saw her as being the way forward in terms of feminism, in terms of quite simply put, strong, independent, not need any male women, which Gloria Steinem totally bought hook, line, and sinker. But Gloria Steinem has another backstory, which you're about to find out about. However, this led to the mistrust of black women of their black men, and further broke down the black family. Let's continue.
In a 1979 interview with the Washington Post, Gloria Steinem said that Wallace's book, quote, made every reader understand the political and intimate truths of growing up black and female in America. And in coverage through Miss Magazine, the magazine Steinem co-founded, she described Black Macho as the book that would shape the 80s. That comes from Miss Magazine's promotional coverage of the book, cited in Wallace's biographical sources. So not only did Steinem praise the book, she helped give it national visibility and legitimacy. Her platform put Wallace's ideas into college classrooms, feminist circles, and public discourse.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. So she was the internet before the internet even appeared. She amplified said tropes, said narratives against black men, and that led to mistrust and distrust of black women for their men, and in so doing, broke down the black family to a point where it contributed to the reduction in terms of marriage rates. And Gloria Steinem had an ulterior motive in doing this. I'll let it continue.
This matters because Steinem had previously worked for a CIA-funded organization called the Independent Research Service in the 1950s and 60s. This is not speculation. Steiner admitted it, former CIA officials confirmed it, and the New York Times reported it in 1967. And you're probably asking, what was her job? Her job was to influence youth political ideology during the Cold War. A decade later, she used that same media and ideological influence to elevate a book that blamed black men, reframed systemic issues as gender issues, weakened black gender unity, aligned with white feminist interests, downplayed racial oppression, and shifted all of the responsibility onto black men.
Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, Gloria Steinem was part of a CIA plot to destroy the black family overall, especially with feminist rhetoric. That's why I say feminism leads to the breakdown of families, not only in the black space, but in all spaces. And it definitely, black women definitely bought that hook, line, and sinker. They saw themselves as single, independent, not needing any men. And this, especially in the 1980s, took hold because Gloria Steinem and the CIA indirectly planted the seed so that black women would be separated from their men. You would never get this sort of plot in any other race. Now, again, I'm more conservative, and I am of the belief that I am of the belief in the red pill, which tends to be more conservative in ideals. But this is something that couldn't be denied. After Gloria Steinem already entered into said talks with the CIA, and in so doing, well, was part of the devolution of the black family, which was once at 60%, which is now at 30%. It's a shame, but again, government had to be involved, police were involved. Again, that's where institutional racism through government and through enforcement were on an all-out war against the black family. Let's continue.
The most revealing and the most vocal statements about what the new black man expects from the new black woman came when I met with a group of young unmarried friends one Saturday afternoon.
I think that what's happening in America as far as black men, black women is concerned is that there's a revolution within a revolution. We are fighting our own woman. Our woman will not allow us to emerge as black men. No. But our black women, who has been put in this role of aiding white America, white structure, and castrating the black male, has continued doing this. She cannot live with us. It's not that we can't live with her.
Are you blaming us? Are you saying that it's our fault that this happened?
No, I'm not blaming black America women. I just said that I'm blaming the system. They are victims of the system like the black male.
Well, why do you...
Ladies and gentlemen, this was in the 1970s and no true words have been said. This is in the I would say, judging from the garb, in the early 1970s, and no truer words have been said. Feminism planted the seeds for black women to take on hook, line, and sinker. You had the book by Michelle Wallace talking about how black men shouldn't be allowed to run black families. And it slowly pushed black men out the door as being leaders of their households. You saw this in no other race. but black families, especially in the Western world. And it's a shame that we have been brought to this conclusion, but this was part of the problem. This is a huge part of the problem. Yes, black men must take onus for their own crimes in and of itself, but black women ate up the feminist narrative. To this day, they eat up the feminist narrative to the point where they're least married and most divorced, and are still distrustful of the black family. And this has led to their demise. And even now, in this economy where they need their black men more than ever, they shun them simply because there is a distrust of them because they don't want to be ruled. They don't want to be governed by by black men as so ordained in the Bible. Other races get it, but we don't. Let's continue.
Say that we are castrating you. You say that you want to be the leaders. Okay, well, what about the black professional woman? Are you saying that there should be no black professional woman? Are you trying to deny black women the right to be creative, the right to function?
We're not asking. So again, this is at a time where it was a third wave of feminism. Black women were trying to seek equality, trying to be independent, trying to be single, and outside of the governorship of their black men. This is where it starts. And Michelle Wallace's book told the tale in and of itself, because it's a shame. It's a shame. But it's something that Michelle Wallace. Yes, it is. Good job. It's a shame, but this is 50 years later, still taking hold to this day. Black women do not wish to be under the governorship of their black men, and as a result, they wish to be single and independent and not need a man. But this is to their detriment, because now that the economy, whenever the economy gets cold, a lot of black women are left out there. And as Kevin Samuels says, winter is coming, and if black women do not wish to be covered, they will not be. And this is a problem that we've been having for the last 50 years. Now, again, this is only part of the problem of the breakdown of the black family. I do not blame it all on the black family. We have already gone through that already. But to devalue this point would be to our detriment. Let's continue.
For you to take a back seat. We're saying that you have got to be astute enough and can view the situation well enough where you just automatically know what your role is and step back. And whenever you want to have that aggressive thing, this is the thing that the young black man today is not going to tolerate. My old man tolerated it because his old man tolerated it. It came up for years and years and years. But today, the young black man is not going to take it. He's going to be out there as the leader.
White America has used black women to keep the black male in his place. And you're still aiding him by saying, well, we are qualified, we want to work, we can help.
Black scholars such as Angela Davis, Audre Lorde, Bell Hooks, Toni Morrison all rejected Wallace's book for the exact reason. And at the same time, Steinem boosted black macho. Ronald Reagan was selling a racist stereotype. And that's where we get the black welfare queen.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining me here in Talk Live. I have an IG and YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment on the road to 1,000 subscribers. We're talking about the reasons for the devolution of the black family, and we just explained how feminism took hold, and how CIA plots infiltrated their way into the destruction of the black family through their spearhead, that is Gloria Steinem. Self-confessed, to be fair. And again, it's here where we are dealing with another stereotype. With the black man, it was with regard to drug dealing and being incarcerated. To the black woman, it's being welfare queens. Let's further explain that story.
The type of the so-called welfare queen has been used to demonize those on public assistance for decades. It's a politically potent image depicting an undeserving aid recipient getting rich on the backs of taxpayers. Politicians, including former President Ronald Reagan, have been accused of exploiting this image as a kind of racist dog whistle. Meanwhile, the original welfare queen that Reagan used as a basis for his caricature was based on a real person. The new book, The Queen, tells the story of a woman who went by many names, was accused of many crimes, and whose image as a Cadillac-driving welfare recipient has lived on. Hari Srinivasan recently spoke with the book's author, Josh Levine, about the real-life woman behind the moniker.
Her name was Linda Taylor, and she was identified by the Chicago Tribune in 1974 as a person who had committed welfare fraud while driving fancy cars, including a Cadillac. And very quickly after that, she was given the nickname the Welfare Queen. And it was a nickname and a stereotype that really very quickly blew up.
Black women were demonized, black men were implied to be absent, and the black family was framed as dysfunctional. Two different forces, one conservative, one feminist, were pushing the same result. Black men and women lost trust in each other, the family begins to fracture, and the gender war begins. By the 1990s, Black macho became required college reading. Talk shows pushed stereotypes. Dr. Phil, Oprah, Sally Jesse, and others amplified dysfunctional narratives.
So again, ladies and gentlemen, let's get back into the 80s now. If again, Oprah would not have her platform and would not be endeared to a more multicultural audience if she did not put, and this is where a lot of black men do not like Oprah Winfrey, because she pushed a feminist narrative and a narrative that saw black men being jailed and imprisoned, and black women being subjugated to servitude to their black men. And she herself was never truly married. There is Stedman, but again, that's neither here nor there. We've all known that from here, from 2 Ways to Sunday. However, her and her talk show cohorts, such as Rolanda, pushed this narrative that black men were absentee, in jail, dead, or gay, and black women should be separated from them. Should be single, independent, and not need a man, especially during the time of affirmative action, where if you were black and a female, you would get a job, and as a black and a male would not. So therefore, this led to the rise of the black female middle class. Let's continue.
For many of us, it is hard finding a good man, no matter what your race, no matter what your background. But where are all the good black men?
Hearing the statistics that there are very few black men for women, I find it difficult at times to have a relationship with a black.
Now remember, she found it difficult to have a relationship with a black man simply because no black men were good enough. This is at a time where black women were winning work hand over fist at a time to the extent and to the negative of black men altogether, simply because of affirmative action. Black women were getting jobs hand over fist, were allowed to join the middle class, and in so doing, hypergamy, which was not given the name back then, took hold, and black women only saw men who could date would only date men at their financial level or higher. And that left a lot of black men in the dust. So therefore, this trope of there not being any good black men out there, it was that because black women were to a certain extent, out earning their black male counterparts in certain respects, even though black men, things haven't changed in terms of black men out earning black women. But to a poorer black man, these guys were seen as the representative of all black men, and in so doing, they weren't deemed as good enough for black women. So this led to further devolution of the black family, because females have never been great breadwinners, in the sense that they're not going to take a man in if he's not earning enough. There was a song in the 80s, nothing going on but the rent. You got to have a job if you're going to be with me. So in so doing, this followed the narrative of black women, in the sense that unless you have a job that equals mine, I'm not taking you in. I'm not backing your play. Where the flip side would be a different result altogether, because again, Men are there to protect and provide for the most part. Let's continue.
Academia frames black men as patriarchal failures. Social workers assume absentee black fathers. Media portrays black men as irresponsible.
James, you're laid off! James, no!
Birth stats get misquoted. Mass incarceration context gets ignored. And black...
Let's just go back to some of these stats here, people. Quickly.
...is irresponsible.
James, you're laid off! James, no!
Birth stats get...
Yes, 2022, 69.3% of births to black women were non-marital. This means 69% of black men this does not mean that 69% of black men father those children. Only 40% of black men become fathers. So where all the rest of those 69.3% have gone, either they go to other races or they're going to the same men over and over and over again. Let's continue.
Misquoted, mass incarceration context gets ignored, and black male unemployment gets forgotten. Black women get misquoted, mass incarceration
Approximately 96.9% black men over 18 and juveniles are free. As I said, 96%. Remember that. Here it is. This has always been the case. However, we are always considered in jail. And black women, unfortunately, have bought that hook, line, and sinker, when that is indeed not the case. Most black men are Kevin Samuels says this all the time. 51% of black men are 51% of black men are single, and 64% are in the middle class. I got that out eventually. Yes, indeed. 51% of black men are single and childless. 64% of them are in the middle class. They are just deemed not good enough to date black women, unfortunately. But that has to change, and we will see how in a bit.
context gets ignored, and black male unemployment gets forgotten. Black women were taught black men are the problem. Black men were taught black women don't respect us. And both were repeating narratives that originated outside the black community. Not from our elders, not from our marriages, not from our families, and not from statistics. And before I leave you, let me be clear. The black family did not fall because of black women. The black family did not fall because of black men. And it definitely did not fall because of welfare checks. The collapse came from economic sabotage, mass incarceration, government surveillance, feminist narratives not rooted in data, racist propaganda, poorly researched books, and a political system that benefits from black gender division. But now, you all know the truth. You have the data, and we understand the timeline. So black men, it's time to take responsibility where it belongs. And black women, release blame where it doesn't belong and take accountability for your actions. And all of us, stop repeating lies that were never ours to begin with. The black family didn't fail America. America failed the black family. And now it's time for us to rebuild it together. Peace.
Great story right there by Media Man. Great breakdown of the black family in all its forms. I want to repeat that last bit one more time so that everybody in the cheap seats understands why the black family broke down. Let's hear it one more time from Media Man. You can hear this on YouTube. Thank you very much for joining me on Talk Live on IG and YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Let's get back into the reasons why there is a black family breakdown in the Western world.
Don't respect us. And both were repeating narratives that originated outside the black community. Not from our elders, gets ignored, and black male unemployment gets forgotten. Black women were taught black men are the problem. Black men were taught black women don't respect us. And both were repeating narratives that originated outside the black community. Not from our elders, not from our marriages, not from our families, and not from statistics. And before I leave you, let me be clear. The black family did not fall because of black women. The black family did not fall because of black men. And it definitely did not fall because of welfare checks. The collapse came from economic sabotage, mass incarceration, government surveillance, feminist narratives not rooted in data, racist propaganda, poorly researched books, and a political system that benefits from black gender division. But now,
thank you very much to Media Man. I'm gonna plug this in just quickly. So you heard all that there is to hear there on Talk Live on IG and YouTube. We just left IG. And we got all that in there for you. But just to let you know, it was a myriad of factors leading to to the black family devolution and the increasing and decreasing rates of marriage within the black community. Either government propaganda, um, jobs leaving the United States, the feminist narrative, um, high incarceration rates, um, also media, also just people and people and there is a great mistrust within the black community to a point where marriage was not the first priority. It was trying to recover and trying to thrive on one's own, and that can never be because other races realize that they either grow together or they're going to die or they're going to die. And that's one thing that the black family is sorely in trouble of doing. I'm going to restart the Instagram. Give me 1 second here. There we go. And we're going to restart this here on Instagram. Give me 1 second. There we go. So we're into the second hour here. Now we've known why the black family has ended. Thank you very much for joining me here in Talk Live in the second hour here on IG and YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment on the road to 1,000 subscribers. So with all those myriad of factors taken into account, we have to find a solution because the economy is what it is. It's not getting any better. It's getting worse. And unfortunately, black women, your single independent narrative is soon to end because those jobs that were once readily available to you are being taken away. The DEI jobs that were once there exclusively, to a good amount of black women have now gone away. And now it is time for you to start depending on your men. So how are we going to change things? How are we going to turn things around? Well, it starts if it has to be under the guise of black men. So therefore, I have moved on to the next video in our series here. And thank you very much for joining me on Talk Live. Thanks to Media Man, Fair Use on the destruction of the black family, 1950 to present day. Excellent video. And you can go back and watch Media Man. Please subscribe to Media Man, doing wonderful things in YouTube streets. He gave a full account, a great synopsis into the black family and why it broke down. But the secret to its rise is marriage. Black people need to get remarried. They need to bring generational wealth back to the black community. Every other race of people understands this. Why don't we? It's time that we turn this narrative around, and we have the secrets to that success, ladies and gentlemen, through Media Man. He's doing a second video here, which is Nike Techs to quarter zips. Gen Z and the millennial black men suppress boomers and Gen X in every way. So we have to, we're leaning on our Gen Z and millennial black men to change the narrative, to change the script, and realize that the ways of the 70s, 80s, and 90s led to the devolution of the black family. It's time to bring it back. And these younger generations are leading the way. So let's get into this video from Media Man. Fair use. Thank you very much for joining me on the second hour of Talk Live. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's time that we got away from the tech police and time we got into a suit and tie and start representing our community in the best way that we know how. Yes, this is garb that I would wear to the office myself. And it's time that we, no matter what office you may be in, get into uniform and get back into rebuilding the black family here. And we are led by Gen Z and the millennials. Great duffel bag, fantastic, something that I would wear myself. And it's time that we turn things around, ladies and gentlemen.
here. I got on a quarter zip. So I don't know if you guys seen this trend going on social media with young black men. They're taking off their Nike Techs and they're starting to wear quarter zips. I think it's a good thing to see young black men delving into dressing more professionally. Young men, keep doing what you're doing. This is not to say that you got to throw away your Nike Tech sweatsuits. You know, I've never owned a Nike Tech sweatsuit, but I do have, I think I got one Nike quarter zip that I wear to the golf range, a great one. I've had that one for many moons. But we're going to specifically focus on young black men, Gen Z, and millennials. And I'm going to statistically explain to you how these young men, young black men, have springboarded the black community, i.e. black men, out of those false ass stereotypes that people won't let go of. When we look at the data, the black community needs to address, especially among older black men. And I see this all the time. They try and dismiss the younger black men's opinions because we always rely on history and wisdom and certain things like that. But for decades, our talking points have been based on what previous generations, our generations of black men struggle with. High crime rates, lower educational attainment, unstable employment, stereotypes about fatherhood, negative cultural behaviors from the 70s, 80s, 90s. But I'm here to tell the black community right here and right now, none of those talking points, they don't match what's happening today. It's done. And it's all because of the Gen Zers and the millennials. But I still see older black men criticize those young men. They're always wearing poolside ski masks and hoodies. They paint their nails. They do TikTok dances. They wear Nike Techs all day. They look weird. They act weird. But while we're focused on their aesthetics, we're missing the bigger truth. Black men. These young black men are statistically pulling black men forward in every major category. They're pulling us out of the depths of hell, and we want to sit there and talk about these dudes painting their nails. I don't like it, but the trade-off is if they're helping us remove some of these stereotypes that we've been hit with for so long, I mean, you got to respect it. 2020.
Ladies and gentlemen, yes, millennials and zennials are leading the way in terms of our resurgence, bringing back black respectability and black families. Yes, indeed. If black women are going to be who they are, they're not going to change for a while until we change, until we start stepping up to the plate and start making a way for this. If we're going to be leaders, we have to lead the way. If we're going to be leaders, we have to make the first step. And thank goodness for millennials and zennials, as they are changing things. As stated here, in 2025, the majority of black children age 18 and under are born to millennials, largest group. Gen Z, second largest group, a smaller portion of late Gen X. So therefore, Gen X, such as myself, are starting to be at the end of their baby making timeline. It's all about the millennials and the zennials. And with that comes change. And it is hoped that, well, it is happening that most of these children are being birthed within two-parent households. There's a big trend towards that and moving back towards that. And long may it continue. Let's continue.
The majority of black children age 18 and under are born to who? Millennials, largest group. Gen Z, second largest group. And a smaller portion from late Gen Xers. If I'm telling you that Gen Z and millennials have debunked and dispelled all the false narratives about black men by themselves, they are responsible for the majority of our young children under the age of 18. Most educated generation of black men ever. Black male high school completion now exceeds 90%. Black men earned more college degrees in the 2010s and 2020s than any previous generation. Black male college enrollment is higher than in the 1980s, 1990s. Rising wage.
So therefore, ladies and gentlemen, we're making a comeback. The Gen Zs and millennials are going back to school. They're getting their education. They're making sure they complete their degrees, and they are staying out of jail. We told you 97% of black men are free tax-paying citizens, and now it's being shown in studies that black men are indeed staying in school, getting their degrees, and getting back into the workforce and rebuilding black families. Let's continue.
And historic employment gains from 2010 to 2024. Black men's wages grew as fast or faster than most race/gender groups.
Stop there for a second, ladies and gentlemen. Did you know that black men are the second highest earners of wages in the United States behind white males? It's true. Do the research. It is there in the census data, in the U.S. census data, and I have no doubt the Canadian census data reflects the same. All these negative narratives and tropes need to stop. Black men are going out, they're getting work, they're paying, they're stepping up and taking care of their families. Finally, realizing that to bang your head against the mass incarceration system and against, well, bad government and bad government plots and ploys is not going to get us anywhere. We need to change from within, and we need to not fall victim to the drug game en masse. Let's continue. I wouldn't say en masse because it was never en masse, but still to a legitimate and sizable amount.
In America, who's been reporting on this stuff for the past 2 years now? In the regards to black men every quarter, still waiting on the third quarter report. I think I have, right? Interesting. Like male. I think I have.
I'd like you to see this part right here. Yes, indeed. Like I was saying, black men, now they're outrunning white women. Now it's white men who are the targets now. Oh yes, there was Asian men. Asian men are first. Asian men first, then Asian women, then white men. Now they've surpassed white women to as of 2025. So, and I reported that in Talk Live earlier on this year. We are on the uptrend, and we are not looking back. Now, black women here, you are doing your thing, but, to say that black men aren't pulling their weight is a lie. And we will not tolerate for that anymore, and we will shout it to the ends of the earth that we are starting to take responsibility, take charge, and start to rebuild black families altogether. Now, what we need to do is get the marriage rates up. But more of that soon. Give me a second.
Black men every quarter, still waiting on the third quarter report. I think I have, right? Interesting. Black male unemployment reached the lowest rate in U.S. history in 2023. We just covered the unemployment rates from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Young black men have the smallest wage gap with young white men in 40 plus years. This is the.
So, ladies and gentlemen, the narrative of black men being totally surpassed by white men is starting to end. It's starting to ebb away. Black men realize that you cannot truly be financially free through nefarious means. You need to start pulling up your bootstraps, and that's why this is where I have a problem with Myron saying that we have a high amount of crime over where our statistics do not show so. We are starting to pull our bootstraps up, and we are Myron from Fresh and Fit, if you did not know. We are starting to pull our bootstraps up, and we are starting to change the narrative in terms of black men. So stop this narrative that black men are dead, in jail, gay, ridiculous. It stops now. Young black men have the smallest wage gap with young white Americans for the first time in 40 years. Black male unemployment reached the lowest rate in the U.S. in 2023. Now, again, it's 2025. We're in the midst of recession, so we'll see the updated results. But this is great news for black men. We are starting to do our part to make our image and our families and our diaspora that much better.
Closest that we've ever been to earning the same as young white men. And it's because of young black men. Don't you think that we should be applauding this shit? Fastest growth in black-owned businesses. Black Americans are the fastest growing group of new entrepreneurs in the entire nation.
Stop there. Black Americans are the fastest growing entrepreneurs in the entire nation. Yes, black people, black men, black women included, we're starting to get it together. We're starting to understand that it's only through business that we are going to change the image, change the narrative. Shout out to my fiance, Lana. She has her own business with her father as well, and they are thriving too. I'm not going to name the business right here. Well, actually, I could name it Steve's Teas. Anyhow, this is bringing about the change within the black community. We have to start creating a better image. And no better way of doing that than through thriving businesses. Let's continue.
Millennial and Gen Z black men drive growth in logistics, tech, content, fitness, and service industries. Post 2020 saw the largest jump in black male business formation in decades. Most involved generation of black fathers ever measured.
Stop. Most involved generation of black fathers ever measured. People don't understand black men are the most involved fathers of any father, of any race. They usually are involved with their children's lives. Now, again, we could be compared to Asian men, we can be compared to white men when it comes to fatherhood. Gone are the narratives that we are absentee fathers. We are there for our children, and it is visibly shown in many statistics. It may shock many, it may shock all those out there, but it's true. Black men are participatory fathers in children's lives. Now, what we need to work on is marriage rates. We need to get married at a higher rate in order to build generational wealth. Here again, Media Man's not done. Among black fathers with children, 55% live with all of their children. Yes, black men are reintroducing themselves, I would say, within the last 10 years to their children and living with their children. I do not want to have children outside of wedlock. Most black men don't want to have children outside of wedlock. It's time for black women to understand this, realize this, and understand that there are good black men out there who want to start families and build generational wealth. If I say nothing else in my life, let that be known. Black men want to be involved fathers. Black men want to live with their children, with their wives, with their significant others, with their girlfriends. We are starting to participate in a new black generation.
Among black fathers with children, 55% live with all of their kids, whether married or cohabitating.
Excellent.
Where the hell y'all think these statistics come from? And again, when you look at the 55%, I know that's the majority. I get it, but you're like, it's still 55%, Media Man. But there's three categories. One that says both and one that says none. Because there are black men that have other children. Of course, you guys know that, right? They got multiple kids. But in that both category, 18%. The number is close to 73% for those black men who have contact with their kids. Okay? And that's not even to mention that from the 2010-2013 report, black fathers ranked ¡1 in engagement, caregiving, and daily involvement among all races.
Stop there. Black fathers have always been known to be involved in their kids' lives. The narrative that black men are absentees should die. It needs to die a quick and painless death, but it needs to die. Because as you stay here, this comes from the U.S. labor statistics, and I'm sure it's shared within Canadian and Western world statistics as well. Black fathers rank #1 in engagement, caregiving, and daily involvement among all races. Now, guess what? That impacts on marriage, as you will soon see. Let's continue.
Where y'all think that stat comes from? It don't come from the boomers. Nearly 54% of black men have no children, contradicting multiple baby mama stereotypes. Sharp decline.
As stated, 46% of black men have had children. 45% of black men have had children throughout history. 61% of black women have had children throughout history. So either men have had repeated babies with these ladies outside of wedlock, or they're going to another race. Because only 45% of black men have ever had kids. So whoever's given birth to these kids have done it on repeat, doing aka Nick Cannon, aka Jalen Rose, or some other race fathers have these kids. That's you.
In crime and arrest rates. Black male youth violence has dropped over 70% since the 1990s.
No, if you take away nothing else from that video, take that. The black men have realized to be involved in with the police leads to incarceration. So therefore, don't commit crimes. Stay away from crimes altogether. Don't be involved in crime, especially with stop and frisk, especially with all these initiatives targeting black men. You need to keep your nose clean. Give them no reason to arrest you. I don't have an arrest record myself. I've never been arrested. It's easier than you think. And it's time that we as black men made a conscious effort to stay out of incarcerated settings. Let's continue.
Arrest rates among black men ages 15 to 29 are at historic lows. Gen Z black men are statistically the least violent generation of black men in 50 years.
Guys, now this has something to do with the fact that Gen Zs aren't exactly going out and getting into trouble, and in so doing, giving the police, the constabulary, full license to lock you up. A lot of black men are staying out of trouble. A lot of black men, are staying indoors. A lot of these black men are, well, are slaves to their computers, unfortunately. But still, great statistic. The least violent generation of black men in 50 years. We're staying out of trouble. We're staying out of jail. It's time for us to start changing the narrative. Let's continue. This is from the U.S. Department of Justice, 2020. All these are legitimate facts. Go and look at these up yourselves. Let's continue.
Healthier, fitter, and more wellness focused. Cigarette smoking among young black men is at an all-time low. Millennial and Gen Z black men exercise more regularly than Gen X and Boomers did.
I'm a Gen X guy. They ain't exercising more than me. Let me just say that. But great statistic. A lot of black men are starting to take care of themselves because we have a problem with hypertension. We have a problem with high blood pressure. We have a problem with heart disease. We have a problem with taking care of our health throughout the Western world. Black men are now living healthier, fitter, and more wellness-focused lives. It's time we did, because we don't have to be out of here prematurely. We have been gifted with this melanin skin, and we need to pull it to full advantage. Did you know that black men have a shade more testosterone than most other races? Just saying. Let's continue. Do the research. Do the math. It's out there. Let's go.
Gen X and Boomers did. So they're more into the fitness lifestyle. Mental health awareness and therapy participation has increased significantly among young black men.
Great job. We used to shun therapy. Now we're getting into it. Now we're understanding the benefits of therapy. If you need therapy, don't be afraid to reach out for it. But now we understand why mental health has ended our lives prematurely, because we have been subjugated to all these different institutional racism, also in terms of police incarceration rates, in terms of stress, in terms of family life, in terms of unemployment, all these stresses. If you're in need of mental health, do not be afraid to reach out to those avenues and facilities. Let's continue.
Upward marriage trend. Black men have a higher marriage rate, 36, than black women. Younger.
Stop there. This is where it comes in handy. With the fact that we are seen as the most involved fathers of any race, according to U.S. statistics, and I'm sure that spreads around the Western world. We have higher marriage rates because we're seen as involved fathers who listen to their women, who take their counsel into account, and are more harmonious with women. There are other things as well, but masculinity and such and such. But still, that is great news that black marriage rates are building. Now, we need to help our black women and marry them as well. Although we do marry them at I believe 79% clip, but that's dwindling. Why? Because other races are starting to get involved. I'm not going to say that now. This is about the black family. Let's continue.
Black men show increasing interest in traditional marriage structures. Black men have successful intermarriage outcomes and lower divorce rates than narratives suggest. And I just discussed this because I see a lot of people saying, well, when the boomers, when they die off and when the Gen Xers die off, then the marriage rates are going to decrease. Where the hell y'all think I'm getting my information from in regards to the upward trends? It's coming from the Gen Zers and the millennials. So no, the marriage numbers will not tank because we still have young black men still wanting marriage, and they are.
And great news indeed that black men are starting to get married, that are still staying married, even Gen Z and Gen X, because we realize that we need each other now more than ever. When things get tough, we need each other. We have to stick together, especially in these economies, in these times. Women have to lower their standards. Men have to have to be the leaders of their families and get involved and bring black women along through the marriage, through two marriages, and stop this narrative and gap between themselves and other races in terms of marriage. It's needed now. There's no equivocation about it. We need each other now more than ever. Let's continue.
Getting married. So that's a false narrative in itself when you keep saying that, the majority of the marriages belong to the boomers and shit and the Gen Xers. No. Okay? Leading digital, entrepreneurial, and cultural spaces. Black male creators dominate commentary, fitness, entrepreneurship, and lifestyle content online. Rising presence in corporate America, tech spaces, digital media, and financial literacy communities.
Yes, black men are totally in those areas in corporate America. Tech spaces, they're starting to get into science, into STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math. Yes, tech spaces are full of black men. Digital media, financial literacy communities. Look on YouTube how many black channels deal with financial literacy. There are hundreds of them. And let that continue. Gen Z black men are shaping modern social and cultural trends more than any other previous generation. Yes, we are still culture bearers. Do you know what in music and entertainment movies, black men are leading the way. The best entertainers tend to be black men. Those who lead the music that the world dances to, the world jives out on, the most in terms of style, we're the leaders in style. We've always been that. Now we need to take over in other areas and bring our families back together. Let's continue.
Gen Z black men are shaping modern social and cultural trends more than any previous generation. So to summarize, millennial and Gen Z black men are more educated, higher earners, more entrepreneurial, better fathers, less violent, healthier, more influential, more civically engaged, all that.
More civically engaged, meaning more black men are in politics these days. See how many black mayors are out there. See how many black representatives well, black politicians are out there. There, and let me say this: there are a lot of black women who are politicians as well. But we need to bring those people together and start getting married. And it's starting to happen, especially for black men, especially outside of the race. Anyways, outside of the race. But again, it's time for us to re-engage with each other because we're not going to go anywhere unless we bond as a community, unless we get together and start building more black families and start dispelling a lot of the stereotypes that have proliferated over the last 50 to 60 years. It needs to stop. We've done a lot of damage to ourselves, but that damage needs to end. Let's continue.
All right. We good? So we dismiss this YN narrative and the young black men terrorizing the black community. I get it. You'll see some smash and grab videos. You'll see some fights here and there. I understand it. I know. But I think people in my age group, we better be lucky that we didn't have smartphones or everything wasn't recorded back in the day. Because I looked at the prison statistics. I actually reported on them. It was embarrassing. Yeah, what did they say on my recent report? Nicky Barnes, on the cover of the magazine, he had 3,000 dealers working for him. You know the majority of those drug dealers were black men, right? Okay. So
that is indeed changing, ladies and gentlemen. Gone are the days of the Nicky Barnes. Gone are the days of the huge drug dealers who used to deal from from apartment complexes en masse. Those days are done because we realize that is a dead end road that leads to nowhere, either dead or in jail. And it's time that we need to do things the right way, the legitimate way. It's something that my father told me. He has a business that's been he has his own business that's been running for 40 years. Has kept clothes on my back and many of his family's back, might I add. And he was married for 32 years. He taught me and imparted upon me the importance of marriage, the importance of generational wealth, and the importance of keeping things in house, especially with our black women. He never did go the great white way. No, he did, and I will not either, unfortunately. Fortunately, but it's time that we start taking our families back. It's time that, and lo and behold, millennials and zennials are hearing the call and they're taking it forward, and long may that continue. Marriage within the black community are starting to be on the rise. Now we need to continue to marry each other. We're married at a 79% rate. That needs to go up. That needs to go up all across the board. We need to depend on each other, ladies and gentlemen. There's no one backing us but us. But I'll let this video end here.
I mean, I say all that to say this, man. We got to update our talking points because when we start thinking like the black community is just, the dregs of society, you guys are failing to understand that we are actually improving. And a lot of that, a lot of that credit goes to the Gen Zers and the millennials. So instead of sitting there trying to, dunk on them in regards to, the TikTok dances and stuff like that. What's the NBA player's name on the Sixers? He doing, the dances and painting his nails, but people fail to understand that dude is a multimillionaire. He got like a gang of sponsors. And that's another thing. Have y'all seen how many young black men are getting these NIL deals and becoming self-made millionaires overnight? Have y'all seen how many black men are going to the NBA and the NFL, coming from good families where their dads played professional ball? The Boozer twins, Carlos Boozer, who else? Carmelo Anthony's son at Syracuse doing his thing. All this. These are all black men. Okay? Pay attention. Pay attention. Yeah, and they get on my guy.
Indeed. So we're going to leave it there, ladies and gentlemen. We need to pay attention. We need indeed to pay attention. We're going to go back to the full camera here and understand that for us, we need to bring it full circle, ladies and gentlemen. Over the last 50, 60 years, we've done a lot of damage to the black narrative, and it has not helped. It has caused major issues within the black family, both institutional racism, mass incarceration, mandatory sentencing, but also the feminist narrative, which was based on non-facts. The idea of the single, independent, not need any man, woman, the and just all these things conspiring on one another, and also the drug machine of the 1970s and 80s have all contributed to the narrative influence of the black family, and it is something that needs to change immediately. Gone are the days where we can give excuse to our plight. We need to start getting back into school. We need to start getting educated. We need to start obtaining jobs. And we need to start marrying each other, because every other race is very, very much in the same boat. It be they Indian, be they Chinese, be they white, be they Hispanic. They all understand the power of family. They all understand the power of community. We need to regain that status, but it is happening now simply because our Gen Z and our millennial brethren have bought back in, and it's great to see. And that has led to lower crime, that has led to higher education, that leads to more jobs, and that leads to greater wealth within the black male community, and is hoped the black female community, which can be brought together to bring generational wealth forward. Thank you very much for joining me here tonight on Talk Live on IG and YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment on the road to 1,000 subscribers. We're going to be back tomorrow night with another show. I don't know if I'm going to do it on Melissa Ford, or I don't know if I'm going to do it on some other topic, but do look out for Talk Live tomorrow night right here at 10 p.m. on IG and YouTube. Thank you very much for joining me, and go Black Family. And we're going to say goodnight from Toronto.